Pound for pound, there isn't a tougher tough guy in NHL history than Tie Domi. Over his 16 NHL seasons, the Albanian Assassin racked up more fighting majors than any other player ever, throwing down a whopping 339 times. But Domi's most memorable fight didn't come against Bob Probert or Marty McSorley or any other legendary tough guy. Actually, Domi's most famous or infamous scrap came against an overzealous Flyers fan who tumbled into Domi's penalty box one fateful night in Philadelphia and was lucky to get out alive. Believe it or not, the Toronto Maple Leafs were a force to be reckoned with around the turn of the century. Yes, the Toronto Maple Leafs. In 1998-99, after two lousy seasons spent fumbling around the Western Conference basement, the Leafs enjoyed a major glow-up under new head coach Pat Quinn, and with a new goalie in Curtis Joseph, a new first-line winger in Steve Thomas, and even a new arena in the Air Canada Centre. The new-look Leafs actually set a then-franchise record for wins in 98-99 and capped their first season in the NHL's Eastern Conference with a trip to the conference finals. Then, the following season, the Leafs established a new franchise record for points before falling to the New Jersey Devils, the eventual Stanley Cup champions, in the conference semis. And although the Maple Leafs' torturous title drought ultimately persisted into the 21st century, Toronto had re-established itself as one of the NHL's top teams. During that time, superstars like Matt Sundin and Cujo cemented themselves as franchise icons, but so too did Toronto's little engine that could punch your lights out, Tie Domi.
They start to wrestle again. The official stood standing back and letting them go. Oh, and now Ray smacks Domi with another right. And the linesmen get in there to break it up.
Well, the heavyweights did not disappoint. He's just a punching bag. That's what Domi's saying.
Originally drafted by the Maple Leafs in 1988, Domi spent his first few seasons in the NHL mostly in New York and Winnipeg, but he returned to Toronto in the mid-90s as one of the league's preeminent tough guys. He only solidified that reputation in his second go-around with the Leafs. Actually, he set the franchise's single-season record for penalty minutes in 97-98. That record still stands today. Simply put, Domi was the quintessential enforcer, and despite standing just 5'10", he would throw down with anyone at any time. Which brings us to the 2000-2001 campaign. A fine season for the Maple Leafs, although they weren't as electric as they had been over the previous two seasons. Toronto took a big step back offensively, and despite Joseph putting up what was then the lowest goals against average of his career, the Leafs headed into the home stretch of the regular season a distant third in their division, clinging to the number 7 seed in the Eastern Conference. Incidentally, Domi actually managed one of the finest seasons of his career points-wise in 2000-2001. The then 31-year-old scored 13 goals, blowing past his previous career high of 11, despite registering just 60 shots on goal. Pretty efficient scoring for a guy who racked up 214 penalty minutes that season. But Domi's spike in goals isn't the thing that people remember from his 2000-2001 campaign. Rather, Domi's most enduring moment from that season was a fight, although not one that anybody could have predicted. On March 29, 2001, with only 5 games left in the regular season, the Leafs opened up a 2-game mini road trip in Philadelphia. At that point, the Leafs still had yet to clinch a playoff spot, and while the Flyers had secured their postseason berth already, they were still playing for seeding. Which is to say, this game had playoff energy, on the ice and in the stands of the First Union Center. And the intensity only picked up throughout the tight contest, which featured a first-period fight between Wade Belak and Todd Fedoruk and was tied up 1-1 after 2 periods. But things got turned up to 11 in the third period, when Flyers defenseman Luke Richardson flattened Maple Leafs forward Darcy Tucker, evoking the ire of Toronto's enforcer, Domi. Domi clearly wanted a piece of Richardson, only to be denied by the officials and assessed a 2-minute minor for unsportsmanlike conduct. And believe it or not, it was in the penalty box that Domi got his scrapping. See, Domi found himself getting showered with taunts from Flyers fans as he stewed in the penalty box. Domi also later claimed that fans were throwing things at him, including beer. And rather than sit there and take it, Domi decided to give it back to them, squirting them with water from his water bottle. Well, that didn't exactly have a calming effect. And after Domi squirted them again, Chris Falcone, a 36-year-old Flyers fan from Havertown, Pennsylvania, went over the line, or I should say, through the glass, in his attempt at retaliation.
That'll straighten those guys out.
Now you've had.
Let him in! Let him into the box! Whoa! All right! Watch the lawsuit, Ty. Watch the lawsuit. Kevin Collins. He's broken up fights before, but not in the penalty box. I'm so happy that fan fell in.
Holy crap. I mean, holy crap! File that under things you don't see every day at the hockey rink. A fan falling into the penalty box and getting pummeled by one of the greatest fighters in the history of the game. Legendary stuff. Domi, by the way, did not receive a misconduct for that unsanctioned fight. And while the fans' night out ended prematurely in humbling fashion, he wasn't hit with any criminal charges. Ultimately, after the glass was replaced, the Leafs went on to beat the Flyers 2-1, but the story of the game was obviously the scrap between Domi and Falcone. For his part, Domi was unapologetic afterwards, saying, if he wants to come in, he's gonna have to pay the price. When he got in there, he started swinging. I'm not gonna let anybody swing at me. I don't care who it is. As reasonable as that defense was though, Domi's actions earned him a $1,000 fine from the NHL, the largest fine allowable under the league's CBA. And eventually, as broadcaster Harry Neal foretold, the fight also got Domi slapped with a lawsuit. In 2003, 2 years after the incident, Falcone filed suit against Domi, the Maple Leafs, linesman Kevin Collins, and Comcast Spectator Inc., the company that owns both the Flyers and the First Union Center. However, thanks to an awesome reconciliation effort from Domi during the first round of the 2003 playoffs, Leafs versus Flyers, the suit was eventually settled out of court.
So finally, they got me the guy's phone number. And I called him on the way to the game. We had a couple games left, and we were playing the Flyers in the playoffs. Okay, first round. On the way to the game, I call him, and I said, Falcone, it's Tie Domi. He goes, don't screw around me, man. Who is this? Who is this? I said, no, it's Tie Domi. You want a game tonight? Yeah. He's quiet. I said, okay, this is what's going to happen. We got to do this low key. But I'm going to have security come bring you to a room. You and I are going to meet. I just want to talk to you face to face. We go in this room, and he comes in, and he's like, he thinks that I'm going to want to fight him or something, right? And I'm like, hey, man. And I just shook his hand, and I hugged him. I said, hey, I'm a good guy just like you. I said, you got wife and kids? And he says, yeah. I said, well, I'll tell you what. I said, we're playing the Leafs in the first round. How about if I fly you and your family to Toronto, put you up, and give you 2 tickets, give you 4 tickets, and, we call it a day. We get this, And he's like, yeah? I said, yeah. You want to come to Toronto? He said, yeah. Anyway, it's all done. I had him sign off everybody. So I got Comcast off. I got the Flyers off. I got NHL off. I got everybody off. He signed off on everything. And he came to Toronto, and God bless the guy.
So in the end, the beef was squashed, but that incident nevertheless remains a critical part of Domi's legend and legacy. Because while there have been plenty of fearless fighters in NHL history, Tie Domi is one of the few who could say he threw down with a fan. Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see more content like this, smash that subscribe button.